The first thing that broke wasn't my laptop, it was the room. 1 second I was mid-sentence explaining a model I'd spent months refining, and the next freeze. The screen locked, the cursor stopped blinking, and the silence hit in that specific way. Silence only hits when people are deciding what you're worth. I remember the professor sighing, not angry, just disappointed in a way that felt rehearsed. Again, he said, glancing at the screen like it was proof of something he already believed. Maybe keep it simpler next time. A few people laughed, not enough to be rude, just enough to let me know I was alone. I stood there with my hands resting on the podium, feeling heat climb up my neck, forcing myself not to rush, not to apologize. I shut the laptop slowly, like if I moved too fast, I'd confirm whatever story they were already telling themselves about me. In that moment, I wasn't a student presenting research. I was a mistake that had slipped through the cracks. This was Northbridge Institute. Old buildings, old money, old rules. Nobody ever bothered to write down. I was there on a merit scholarship, which sounds impressive until you realize what people actually hear when you say it. They don't hear earned. They hear allowed. People assumed I was lucky, temporary, replaceable, and I let them. Not because I agreed, but because I'd learned early on that explaining yourself to people who enjoy misunderstanding you is just another way to lose. After class, the room emptied fast, leather shoes on marble floors, quiet confidence heading toward louder futures. I stayed seated staring at the dark screen, replaying every second, wondering if I should have said something different, spoken louder, smiled less, been smaller or bigger. That was the trick here. There was no right size for someone like me. My roommate Claire was already back at the dorm when I got there, sprawled across her bed like she owned the space, and honestly, the school checking her phone. "Rough presentation," she said without looking up. "Technology's weird like that." It sounded kind. It wasn't. I guess I said, setting my bag down. She tilted her head nails, tapping her screen. "I've just never had a crash during a presentation. Neither has anyone I know. But hey, pressure affects people differently." There it was, wrapped in a smile, delivered clean. I'd noticed things by then. Files that corrupted for no reason. Access cards that worked on the second try, never the first. Study groups that were always full when I asked, magically open for everyone else. Little things. Always little. Little things add up. That night, while Claire went out with friends whose last names were carved into buildings, I opened my laptop again. Not to fix the presentation, not to prove anything to them, to remember who I was. Back home before Northbridge, I was the person people came to when things broke. Code systems ideas didn't matter. I saw patterns. I always had. I didn't panic. I didn't guess. I watched, adjusted, solved. Here, that same instinct made people uncomfortable. In group projects, my ideas were too ambitious. In discussions, my comments were a little intense. When I held back, I was quiet. When I spoke up, I was aggressive. Funny how those words only ever seemed to land on me. The breaking point didn't come with shouting or insults. It came during a meeting in my advisor's office walls, lined with awards all earned by people who looked nothing like me. He leaned back in his chair and said gently, "You're clearly very capable. But capability isn't everything. Fit matters." Fit. "You might thrive better somewhere else," he continued. "A place that aligns more with your style." Translations stop reminding us you're here. I walked out of that office calm, on the outside hollow. On the inside, carrying a quiet realization that scared me more than anger ever could. They weren't trying to fail me loudly. They were trying to erase me politely. That night I stopped trying to fit. I stopped asking to be included. I stopped explaining my ideas. I stopped defending myself. Instead, I started watching. I paid attention to who got second chances, who got benefit of the doubt, who got grace when things went wrong. And I noticed something else, something familiar. Patterns. The same way bugs leave fingerprints in code, bias leaves fingerprints in systems. You just have to know where to look. So I did what I always do when something doesn't make sense. I analyzed it. I didn't hack anything. I didn't break rules. I used what was already there: logs, timestamps, access records, grading distributions. Data nobody bothered to check because checking it would mean admitting something uncomfortable. The results were clean, too clean. Students like me experienced technical issues at wildly higher rates. Our work got flagged, delayed, lost. Subjective grades dipped while objective scores stayed strong. Recommendations mysteriously went elsewhere. One incident means nothing. 100 tells a story. By the time the annual project showcase rolled around, the one attended by donors, board members, people who actually mattered, I knew exactly what I was going to do. My group's project was safe, simple, forgettable. That's what they wanted. That's what they'd assigned me to contribute to documentation. Notes, support. So I played my part. On presentation day, I stood off to the side while my teammate walked through slides that wouldn't challenge anyone or threaten anything. Polite nods, polite applause. I could feel myself disappearing in real time. Then he reached the final slide, and I stepped forward. Actually, I said, my voice steady, cutting through the room like a clean line of code, "I'd like to show you something else." The professor opened his mouth to stop me. He didn't get the chance. The screen changed. Not slides, not bullet points, live data, visuals moving in real time, elegant, undeniable. My work, the one I was told didn't fit, the one I was told to tone down. Gasps rippled through the room, chairs shifted, phones lowered. This model, I said, predicts behavior patterns with high accuracy, but that's not why I ran it here. I paused, let the silence do the work. I turned it on the institution itself. Charts appeared, trends, comparisons. 5 years of evidence clear enough that even denial would take effort. This, I continued, is what exclusion looks like when it's dressed up as standards. No yelling, no accusations, just facts. Then audio played. Conversations. Calm voices discussing how to manage students like me, how to limit access, how to encourage us to leave without causing trouble. The room didn't explode. It collapsed inward. I watched faces drain of color, watched people who'd never questioned their place suddenly question everything. When it ended, I closed my laptop again. Same motion as before, same calm. Questions I asked. No one laughed this time. Afterward, everything moved fast. Investigations, suspensions, apologies that came too late to mean much, offers that suddenly appeared when my absence became a liability. I listened. I nodded. I declined most of them, because the win wasn't exposure, it was clarity. I walked out of Northbridge a few weeks later, not triumphant, not bitter, just lighter, like I'd finally put down something heavy I'd been carrying for too long. Here's the part people don't expect. I don't hate them. I don't replay their faces at night. What stayed with me wasn't the humiliation, it was the lesson. That intelligence doesn't scare people. What scares them is when intelligence refuses to stay quiet. Some systems don't break you with force. They wear you down with smiles policies and plausible deniability. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to scream back. It's to let the truth speak in a language they can't interrupt. So let me ask you something. Have you ever been underestimated, not because you lacked ability, but because someone decided you didn't belong? And if you have, what did you do with it?